Right, mask up. Kagwe now orders amid surge in COVID-19 infections. Kenyans have been urged to keep their masks on when enclosed or confined places amid concerns that there are rising COVID-19 cases. COVID-19 cases, by the way, have been on the rise, if you're not aware. And it looks we are uncertain on some of those variants, including the famous Omicron variant, which is currently in circulation, and Kenya is staring at the 6th wave. The positivity rate, the percentage of people who test positive for the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19 from total number of tested is averaging now at 10.74% per week. That's super huge, considering even the last, I think the 4th wave of COVID-19, we were at 4 to 6% there. So 10.74% per week is quite a sharp increase. And based on this steady rising rate, medical experts now say that there's a new wave that we are staring at in the country. That's why it's currently mandatory by the government or by this, according to the statements by the CS, as you saw right there. Make sure that as you go out, umebeba mask. Yeah, kama ulitupa stock ya mask at cheap a few weeks ago, it's time to get back to business. Now we're getting to the newspaper review section. That's one of those stories that is happening on the headlines this morning. Of course, that's not the main story that's happening. It's on the top of the Daily Nation, however, and I'm looking at all of this with Paul Wambua, who's coming back here yet another time. I think the nth time, we can say that. Yeah. I've lost count.
Stop the count.
Yeah. Stop the count.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
How have you been?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've braved the influenza and now we have to mask up again. So
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things happening. Looks like we are back to where we were, or what do you think? Are we back to COVID-19 days? And do some of these measures, like, most Kenyans, if we were to do a random poll right about now, I don't think most would be in favor. I might be wrong. Most might not be in favor of masking up. I know that it is a good measure towards reducing that exchange of fluids and all of that during interaction with other people in public. However, should we be getting these measures back, especially in a political season?
I'm convinced as we should be getting these measures back, and you remember that COVID is really a public health problem, and COVID has been with us. COVID never went away.
Yeah.
You look at our vaccination rates, they are very low. People are not getting vaccines.
Only 8 million Kenyans out of the 40-something.
Yeah, and you remember almost a year ago, the government had targeted something around 10 million. Yeah. But up to today, people are not vaccinated.
Right.
No one is talking about it. Kagwe had left announcing even some of these things to, basic communiques to the media, which does not make a lot of sense given the effects we've seen with COVID. So for me, we need to take public safety as a matter of concern. And Kenyans, unfortunately, we just have to wear masks and get vaccinated.
So you're saying these are mandatory measures. However, they are saying around this time, if you also saw the ICT practitioners bill issue that was happening the past 2 weeks, they're saying that everything, including the CS for ICT, saying that it is a political season and everything is, politically motivated. Having such measures, in one of these things that they're saying is that if you are somewhere congregating as Kenyans, or there are meetings that are happening, they shall be continuing at full capacity as long as all participants are fully vaccinated. I don't know how we are going to verify that in political rallies.
Political rallies provide a space where you cannot really regulate these things. But remember, if you wanted, it can be done. You remember the Biden campaign. They were keen on this, and with their town hall meetings and everything, people were masked up, and it helped in one way or the other.
Right.
Although, it's basic knowledge that political rallies are super spreaders. So again, the technicalities on how you avoid the spread in such spaces, it's something that our medical experts will continue to advise us. But the short of the long of it is COVID is here with us. COVID has been with us, and Kenyans, we need to mask up, and we also need to ensure that the mandates that the ministry is putting up in place, that we adhere to them.
Right. Don't forget the rest of them, including hand washing with soap and water, social distancing, so that 12.6% positivity rate as of the past 24 hours needs to go a bit down. Alarm is being raised, of course, over a new wave of COVID-19. Let's get back to the headlines, Wambua.
Yes.
I don't know which one you want. Which one is your favorite?
I'm particularly interested in this one, the myth of, the standard.
Right.
The myth of the youth
vote unmasked. Right.
Yeah, and
massive resources people have been raising all over. Professor Wajakoya looking like he's inclined towards wooing the youth who have been, alleged to be the majority for such a long time. So it looks like we are not. We are the majority of Kenyans, but we're not the majority of voters.
Yeah, it's one of those things which have an history behind them, and you will understand that as a youthful population, at least those of us born from the 90s, we rarely have the political appreciation our fathers and
or their fathers had.
Yeah,
right.
That they had. So what that has meant is that you look at 2017, 2013 and the Kumira
periods.
It's the much older generation that were being ferried to go and vote. Us youths are either disinterested. That was despite at the time the TNA, URP branding themselves as the digital guys, but that did not even involve make the youth to participate as actively.
Right.
And you look at that history of their period of elections and the kind of disapproval or disliking that we have, we the young people, towards the political processes, either from a lack of understanding about the impact of politics or just sheer ignorance and maybe preoccupation with other things.
Right.
We want to
be involved in
technologically savvy, but at the end of the day we do not understand that politics will definitely involve anything and everything around us. So
right.
The fact that we are disengaging ourselves from it should really worry everyone, and especially the future of us as a country.
And that's a very interesting angle to look at it from, because when I meet a lot of the youth, my fellow youth, of course, me being one of them, saying that matters of politics are not things that are of concern to me. Mimi wacha ningia online, I do my own things, but forget things like some of the bills which are passed towards internet regulation, the use of devices, purchase of items, are all things that start from politics. So you cannot, money is a political animal. You cannot disassociate yourself from matters of politics. Chebukati says that the number of voters has increased from 9 million, that is back then in 2017, to 22, a whopping 22 million, which means more voters above 35 years are registering more than the youth.
Yeah, and it's funny because Chebukati and IBC employs the young people to do all these voter mobilization and registration. Yet it is the same youths who are not interested in registering as voters. I mean, you'd expect that with the number of young people we have in this country, it in one way or the other supposed to directly translate into something that is going to change our political dynamics, but it is not. So I feel like we need to raise the level of political consciousness and awareness amongst us, the youth, and that is the only way I think we are going to change the political dynamic. And being the majority of the people in this country, if we are not participating in politics, which determines the outcome of things to the simplest of it, I mean, petrol, these are matters which need to be legislated upon.
Right.
And by us youths participating in the voting process and having, besides the youthful leaders, I mean, people who care about our future.
Right.
It's really something that we should work on from peer to peer, but also our state institutions and the government as a whole should work to ensure that that is achieved.
Right.
That said, we need to also underscore the point of personal responsibility, where we should understand that our involvement in politics should not be pegged on anything but the fact that we mean well for ourselves, for our country, and perhaps to appeal to just the nationalistic sense of people in ways.
So one of those other things that have been happening, especially due to the myth that the youth are the majority, is the fact that branding themselves with slogans and terminologies and campaigns which are focused towards the youth. For example, the music that they play at their campaigns, the places that they visit, who do they use in reaching out to the youth? If you look at their spokespersons, their heads of campaigns, useful in a useful nature. Usikia vitu kama sijui slogans like sipangwingwi or rao tosha, vijana na rao ama kitu kama hiyo, wajakoya na mayut, unaona. And then do you think now that this is out, there's going to be a change in strategy? Now the leaders are going to be focused towards speaking to the elderly, if I may say so.
I mean that,
and should they?
That falls back to how we really identify who is a youth, because from at least a definition kind of way, you would understand that even the 35 falls within the threshold of youth. So for me, it's also again an issue of the political messaging, in that yes, the auditor said that the youth have apathy and all that, but what segment of the youthful population are we inferring to? Because technically 35 is still youth, at least by the definitions in our constitution, and these other things. So to target
36 is useful.
To target the young people will involve more than just the sloganeering and everything. You need to make them understand that we are involving the youth, not by only focusing on the terminologies we are surrounding ourselves with. The makers, the feel-good words that the politicians are using, but to involve them actively in these processes. And one could argue that that has been done, because if you look at the likes of Sakaja terming themselves as youth, the likes of Babu, and everyone wants to identify as youth. But you look at the challenges that the youths are facing, and it's the same old story, and the situation is only becoming worse, because you look at even, we have been fed with this idea of, oh, you are a youth, it's business, it's startup, it's the only way you're going to succeed. You involve yourself in everything, digital, everything. But at the end of the day, you realize that after all is said and done, that is simply not enough. Right.
So you need to include active participation in reaching out to the youth.
Definitely. Right. For me, it has to be a broad approach, and not to be left to youthful organizations and the likes of that. It has to be a wholesome process.
If we look at the headline in the Daily Nation, as we still stick on matters of politics, there are pain points. There's a complex analysis here on page 12 and 13 that looks at where Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have been pitching camp, and the DP has visited Mount Kenya a record of 36 times just this year, in a bid, of course, to get that vote-rich region. And Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua are also attempting to make inroads to get some of that 4.7 million voter region in their basket. In the western region, they're also giving the numbers there in a map, and Raila has visited that side 14 times, of course Ruto 22 times. The numbers are there. And in the Rift Valley region, where it is, of course, expected to be the supposed stronghold of one DP Ruto, that vote is all but secured. So Ruto has focused his energies on trying to get the Ma vote that Raila Odinga has been trying to secure strongly. If you can see if his last efforts for the past few weeks are something to go by.
Yeah.
What does this inform us when I'm seeing also other regions, but I'll get to that, other regions which are completely left behind? What does this inform you?
I mean, it shows you that they are not really strongholds per se, because, for example, you look at Ruto and going to Central for all these times.
36 times.
36 times.
Only 6 months in.
Yeah, you'd expect that if you perceive this to be your stronghold, then it means in one way or the other, it's a block of a vote.
So maybe this time, do we have strongholds? Or have we lost that? Are we almost losing that concept of a stronghold?
I mean, it's hard to say, because I mean, the idea is that if this is your stronghold, you anticipate higher voter turnout. Yeah. You anticipate that you have a majority. Yeah, and your level of support is at its peak. But now, when you realize, when you look at these movements, there isn't really what you term a stronghold, and for me, that should encourage us in a way. But then again, you realize it's the same forest and the same monkeys.
Why did you reduce your speech there? But yeah, if you got that same forest, same monkeys. Rigathi Gachagua has been visiting his own region since he was picked as a running mate on May 15th, 20 times already.
Oguda makes the joke that we should give him the mic.
Give Gachagua mic again.
Yeah, and when he's given the mic, it's, unfortunately, it's not such nice things which he has to say. And in one way or the other, if you look at the polls which they have taken to discrediting, when you see it's again, it's the politics of convenience. When these numbers were serving you, you were so happy about the media was the best. But now, with a small flip, it's Githeri media, they are cooked up.
Right, and DP did kick out journalists from a meeting this past few days, of course, saying that they have more important things to discuss.
It is
what our media were talking. Do you want the media as your enemy, really, when you're going for a political position of that nature?
For me, I really struggle to understand Deputy President William Ruto, because he's the same man that was complaining when he was being featured. I think he was he had his statistics, and he was saying that a newspaper in Kenya will not sell if it does not have news about Ruto. And now he has reached to a point where he is kicking out the same journalists, accusing them of bias, threatening to run away from the presidential debate. And all of these, I mean, his engagement with the media lately.
But could it be a good, let's call it, Trump strategy? Because during Trump's time, as he was trying to get into power, I remember he also, that's where the phrase fake news
it used to drive in his time.
Drive especially, and saying the only thing that he watches is Fox News, and he was an enemy to everyone, actually mentioning names in particular. So and so from this particular media station, I don't want to hear anything about him. Could it be a good strategy, maybe, to put him in a position where he's against the media, but also his popularity stems from the same thing?
In Kenya, if we are to understand the media architecture, you would understand that would nearly be an impossibility, because unlike Trump, Ruto does not have a Fox News. He does not. And if you don't have such a, I mean, you look at the influence that Fox has, and you try and find a Fox in Kenya, he doesn't have one.
Right.
The only medium I think that he's using, and I mean, credit to his advantage, is Twitter and social media. He is big there, and he has some rather huge following, and it is there that these days he has taken to, because he is putting a lot of word out there, using all these platforms, and he has the likes of Itumbi and the likes.
So he does not have a Fox. You need a Fox to survive in that kind of situation.
Yeah, and to
that was what you're saying. The pain points, you can get to read more of that in page 12 and 13. And of course, this is also around the time where we are being told that it's time to invest in some of NSE's largest firms. A story in the smart business of the Daily Nation. Time to buy cheap stock as some of the foreigners are fleeing to safe havens, giving you a chance now to get your few coins and little sweat and get yourself some Centum shares, Safaricom. Most of this average dividend yield on the majority or the big players in the NSE have raised their dividends in the past and posting strong earnings over the year. So if it is the time that their stock is going down, you can get to invest as well. Value of listed stocks plummeting from 2.9 trillion in May this year to 1.9 trillion. Safaricom was also suffering over the weekend. Safaricom, Equity, KCB, EFBL, of course, overall dynamics looking like there's depressed retail, although they are also selling and are expected to rise anytime soon. The price is being driven by smaller shareholders who are afraid of that plummeting of the stock in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. However, it is looking like, according to a statement here from the Centum Chief Executive Officer James Moria, is saying that the people who are thinking about fundamentals are buying. So it's also a good time for you to think about the fundamentals and buy. I'm going to ambia Jay. That was my message for investment.
Invest when you can and if you can. Yeah, it is good for you, it is good for your future. Yeah. And it's good for our economy and it's good for the capitalists.
Definitely. Yeah. But it's good for economy as well because it's a capitalistic economy. You cannot run away from it as of now. Senate, before I just realized we move away from politics and I wanted us to have a look at Senate before maybe you can I don't know what else you wanted to pick up there.
Yes.
The back of the Daily Nation has that vote which is happening today. Very crucial vote on the 10 trillion debt ceiling. And the increasing of the debt cap will be good news to Treasury that is seeking to raise that 846 billion in the gap for the debt deficit or the budget deficit that is there in the 3.3 trillion budget for the year 2022-2023. What are you in favor of, Wambua? Should we raise the debt ceiling or should we work so hard to raise the deficit in other means? Do we have capacity?
I mean, with the kind of mismanagement we've seen, it is only convenient for us to raise the debt ceiling.
So we are looking at convenience over...
Of course, this is convenience. This is poor fiscal...
What does prosperity look like for the next government, though? If we... Of course, now we can be convenient for us, but the next government, it might not be as easy to tread these waters.
And you see, that is the problem, because the now administration thinks that... or because it has gotten us to where we are now. I doubt, from where I sit, that it has any intention or it sat down and looked at how the economy is performing, how it has especially performed under them, and what it means to raise these this debt ceiling. Because how is it that we finance 3/4 of our budget through borrowing,
right?
And then you borrow and you steal 2 billion in a day,
and we borrow more than half of our GDP.
And then you have wages where it's almost 3/4 of the budget, 830 billion in a year for wages for state officers and for benchmarking and for
benchmarking trips
and all that stuff. So ultimately, yes, it is good that we are going to increase the debt ceiling. We will have money. It's good for the economy. It will also help us with
Kenyans.
With the recovery. I mean, post-COVID shocks.
Right.
But again, it falls back to politics of convenience. You've had an economy that, yes, has been growing, but has only been increasing the disparities, and you've heavily borrowed, and you want to increase the ceiling to borrow again, and you are not telling us how we are going to service these debts. And this is where the opportunists like Wajakoya come in, because the guy will come to us, is selling to us a solution. The others are selling promises. Wajakoya is selling a solution to the debt problem in this country.
And that's why he finds our pain point.
Yeah, it's sensational, it's populist, but it has a sense, I mean, in terms of how pragmatic it is. And that is why, for me, the youth who, again, have apathy and all that stuff, are excited because, in one way, they see there's a candidate who thinks the debt should be of concern, and he's offering a practical solution. I mean, you read it of the morality of it and everything, and you realize maybe Wajakoya is telling us something, unlike the others.
Maybe Wajakoya does have a point.
Yeah, maybe Wajakoya does have a point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you offer people solutions such as plugging this debt ceiling, you're plugging this debt deficit or budget deficit, and also servicing the debt that you already have, you are pointing out to a lot of, or solving most of the problems that they have. You're solving unemployment issues, you're solving the subsidy issues of fuel and all of that. Manufacturers who are crying that they do not have enough dollars, that's already sorted, because now the shilling now becomes a bit stronger as well. The availability of dollars floods the market. If you're selling that as a solution, I expect the youth to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, and it's only fair to concede to Wajakoya that he's done that.
Yeah,
he's almost succeeding, if you ask me. But
however, a question before you maybe give your conclusion on that one.
Yes.
Populist agendas, you've mentioned that in your statement just a few seconds ago, and we see that from time to time. In 2013, it was Abdu Badida. Before that, it was this guy from Turkana, who is constantly saying is the opposition, the leader of opposition, with I think 10 votes. However, populist agendas, what role do they play? Is there truth in being a populist, or is this sensational, just purely sensational?
I think it is sensational, because at the end of the day, you have to understand that there are other mechanisms and forces at play which do not necessarily play to whatever the populist is saying. But that said, I mean, standard practice has it that populist agendas in many of I wouldn't call them developed I mean, in developing economies, they tend to work. You look at the populist rhetoric of Duterte and Philippines, and how he offered a solution, at least as he thought it, to the drug crisis in his country, and he had the drug war and everything. So I wouldn't be shocked if Wajakoya were to pull a surprise win. I mean, it happens all the time.
Right.
But he would also fall short of the mechanisms which are extraordinarily under play, which would mean that for me, we should take Wajakoya seriously and not literally.
All right.
Yes.
Seriously and not literally.
Yes.
That's a good point to go to matters of literature, as we look at the literary side of things. And there are people who are making a lot of money through online bookshops here. So
Nuria Bookstore has been featured by the Daily Nation, and how we are trying to power our SMEs. And I mean, it's commendable the work that Abdullahi Bule is doing with the Nuria. For those of you who don't know, Nuria is a online bookstore, and it delivers almost everywhere. And they are located at Moy Avenue, and it's here where if you are on Twitter, you might have come across Chief is the chief Nuria bookseller. And I mean, generally what the story is that Kenyans are reading. You might not believe it. And again, maybe to digress a bit, the other day you had Professor Indankasi in the Daily Nation also say that our Kenyan Kenglish is so terrible.
Kenglish, that's what they're calling it.
Yeah, because we Kenyans do not read. I mean, that is another conversation altogether.
We are I love Nairobi.
Yeah, I love Nairobi.
I am.
I can be able to. Yeah,
I can be able to.
That kind of English. So,
I cannot repeat again.
Yeah, so he was saying that Kenyans are not reading, but I think Nuria would say something else differently.
Right. And also you, of course, now it's a good segue, of course, to take a look at Story Moja Festival, which you have been a part of. Readership in Kenya. which is being, of course, boosted by several efforts. I have had here for the past 2 months, I think, several people who are authors,
Yes.
and putting in effort in creating festivals such as the Story Moja Festival.
Yeah.
I got a chance to attend one, and also got to attend a book signing by one of the new authors around. And it's an exciting time, of course, to encourage Kenyans to access books. Maybe they don't want to get it physically, I don't know, the culture of hard copy reading is fading down now that we are all addicted to our screens. Now that you are in Story Moja Festival, how does the situation look like?
For me, Kenyans are reading. Kenyans are reading. Kenyans are writing. Perhaps it's maybe because I've been enclosed in a space where for me reading has been the to-go-to thing. But it's common knowledge. You look at the way bookshops are coming up. You look at the way literary ventures are increasing day by day. I mean, the other day from Story Moja, we had the Story Moja Read Aloud, which was not only an attempt to at the world read aloud record, but it was also an opportunity to engage the young people, our kids, in reading, and just to cultivate a culture where they don't read because it's part of
the curriculum,
but they read because it empowers them. And then again, I mean, knowledge has been so democratized. You can get it online. You can read soft copies. You have audiobooks. You have the likes of Nuria selling books, delivering all over the place. So for me, Kenyans are reading. You just have to know where to look, and I would urge us all to read, because if we read, I'm convinced we wouldn't have as much problems, because I mean, reading will boost your head. You will get new knowledge. You will understand history, and
it's cardio for the brain.
Yeah, and how all this affects what you do and what becomes of you and what the future has in it for you. So yeah, order books online, read whatever you can. Yeah, listen to. I mean, read the stories that our African writers are telling, our Kenyan authors are writing, because Nuria stocks almost every other self-published author. It's good for the book economy. It's good for those who are publishing, and yeah, you get the knowledge. That is very important.
Right. Three things I wanted us to take a look at before maybe we wrap up.
Yeah.
That is, what is Story Moja Festival? Maybe for guys who don't know what that is. What is a festival about stories and reading out aloud? It's a world record that you are attempting to break. How did that go, and how exactly do you guys go about it? And then maybe we can have a wrap up of this newspaper review section. Yeah,
so we are still, I mean, the team with Wangari at Story Moja. Story Moja, by the way, it's an NGO that is education based in a way, and the Story Moja Festival is a festival of ideas, curated by the likes of Mudhoni Gallant and Anne Eboso, and they are involved with different ventures, from starting libraries, that read aloud venture, which is basically reading aloud just to motivate people to read, and especially the young people, because you'll realize that there is a lot of adult fiction out there. There's a lot of writing that is targeted to those of us who have come of age, but we have little close to no writing, and actually close to no award on children writers, save for, I think, African Writers Space is doing something about that, and we have even teen awards for writers who are at their teenage. Okay. So those are just some of the occasions that, for me, the non-governmental space has really ventured into. And if, for example, someone were to co-opt the work that Story Moja has been doing as an organization besides the festival, then I feel like our education culture would be supplemented in ways, and we would do away with these the sort of anti-intelligentsia move we have in this country, where people
Anti-intellectualism.
where people who are known to think
Are
automatically enemies of the state. So
Right.
if you are to move in another direction, then I'm convinced, or those of us in the literary space are convinced that we would be in for a change,
Right.
and a positive change while at that.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Plans are underway for those guys who wanapenda mambo ya Naivasha Safari Rally. Chief Kimathi, who is the CEO of Phineas Kimathi, giving a brief media yesterday, saying that they're very ready and made elaborate plans to avoid traffic snarl-ups as people make their way to the service park in Naivasha ahead of the World Rally Championship Safari Rally that is happening over the weekend in Naivasha. Kama unaenda Vasha, Subaru boys, pick me up along Thika Road. I'll give you my location. But this, of course, is expected to boost the economy. We'll be taking a look at the numbers next week. A lot of traders who will be at strategic locations. Of course, we get to see new hybrid cars, taking a look at some of those things. I'm hoping can get Captain Manu next week, of course, to have a breakdown of the WRC event, and also get to see what kind of economic impact it will have had in the country as of that time. I remember last year, I think we made what was it, 2 billion or 6 billion?
It was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
Yeah,
In short, it was a lot of money. I hope it wasn't, it didn't go unexplained. You know, that's has become the term currently in Kenya.
Yeah.
Unexplained wealth found.
Yeah, everything
6
is
billion unexplained.
Yeah.
Mystery as 3 billion gets lost from. However, if you're making yourself to your way to WRC, tafadhali tuambie mipango yako ni gani, alafu maybe we can join you there. Wambua, thank you for coming through.
Thank you very much. Subaru boys, let's do this.
Yeah. What will it mean for you and for Story Moja if the record is becomes the world record, the reading out aloud record, which you're also part of?
I mean, as an ambassador, it gives you a sense of pride, and it also speaks to the fact that reading can have such an impact, because you look at the excitement that was with the kids who are taking that the kids who are part of it, and the level of commitment that went into it, and that for me it would really
very
mean
encouraging, right?
Yeah, very encouraging.
Okay, get us a quote at the back of the Business Daily as always as we go for this next part of the show.
Yeah, in the interest of celebrating women, and especially the Colombian Vice President Francia Marquez, we have a quote here from Nikki Giovanni. She is an American poet, and